Don Mazzella here for Small Business Digest. We're here today with a subject that's dear to my heart. We hardly ever read our healthcare, or for that matter, the employee manual, until we need something and we discover, oops, it's covered, and it usually doesn't help you. But we have someone to talk about that today, Lauren Winans. She's with us, and hopefully it'll clear up some of the things, but probably not all of them. Uh, but I guess the main thing she's going to say is read that document. But I'll let her do the talking. Lauren, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Don. I really appreciate it. And I am going to tell you to read your benefits material.
Well, as we ask all our guests, first tell us a little bit about yourself personally, then about your company, and finally where people can learn more.
Sure. I have been an HR professional for over 20 years and worked for a lot of large corporations. And I have gained a lot of experience in that. I spent most of my career handling employee benefit administration. So employee benefits and the communications that come with it are a big part of my life. And even now, as I've started a consulting business about 4 years ago, Next Level Benefits, even now we spend a lot of time in the space with our clients as it relates to their employee benefit plans, communicating those plans to their employees. And so still, a very near and dear topic to my heart. And so, yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and yeah, and I'm an HR person. So it's a little bit about me. And then our company, Next Level Benefits, our website is nlbenefits.com, and check us out. We handle all things outside of employee benefits too. We do all things HR. We do a lot of consulting work, contracting, freelancing, even placing some interim talent when there's an open role or a position that is maybe vacant due to a leave of absence. We handle those things too. So I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit more about employee benefits. That is the most exciting topic for me within the HR realm.
Well, I always like it. Some people, what's your title?
So my title is CEO and Principal Consultants. I figured I better name myself CEO because I don't think anyone else is in my life. So why not?
So, okay. So, having said that, to me, the real question is, um, oh, you get the employee benefits. You just uh, joined the company. What should you do?
So what you should do is at least take a look at them. I think what some people do is they might, when you're onboarding into a new company, there's a lot of information coming at you. You have to fill out different forms. You need to get familiar with, your boss, with your coworkers. There's usually some training that's involved. You got to set up your direct deposit. There's so many different things that you need to be paying attention to. And sometimes people forget to review the benefit information, and not necessarily because they don't want insurance coverage, but because it just gets kind of overlooked in the process, and it's not an easy topic to really understand. So I think what my number one recommendation is, always read it, always be aware of what your deadline is to enroll into the coverage, because you don't want to miss that. And if there's something about the benefits package you don't understand, you should be reaching out to your HR teams and asking those questions, and getting the information you need to feel confident that you can make a thoughtful decision on which plan you'd like to have for the upcoming year.
Well, let's pivot here. This is a program for small business leaders. Let's talk about it from their angle.
Mm-hmm.
I've read that they expect the health for the big companies. They expect a big increase next year in coverage, and small businesses have been fighting uh, 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 medical healthcare expenses for a long time. HSA saved it, but now even that's starting to not work. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, healthcare is always going to go up every year, and it comes down to not necessarily the type of insurance plan you have. It's functionally like how the healthcare industry works. So, as insurance costs go up, so does the cost of the care that you're actually receiving. So does the fees that insurance companies are charging. There's not a lot of relief in that way. So if there's one thing that's going to cost you something, cost you more every year besides your cell phone, it's going to be insurance. And so it's just a product of the way that the healthcare industry is designed. And it's designed in a way to be more of a profit center than it is to be looking out for the best interest of the patient. And because it's designed that way, that is why, you can expect to be always having to pay more out of your pocket, whether you're a small business owner or whether you're the employee of a small company. You're always going to end up paying more. And I think this year, if I recall seeing the increase is anywhere between 6 and 10%, depending upon what size employer you are and how many employees you might have on your coverage. So that honestly is a pretty standard number, unfortunately. And so that's something that I would always encourage small business owners to be thinking about when they're planning their budgets and their forecasts for the upcoming year, is always assume that your insurance is going to cost more, because it will.
Well, but let's turn it around. If the gig economy is indeed exploding, that means theoretically you're having less employees per company, and you're using more. Um, should a company start thinking about being just gig driven?
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's always about taking a look at what advantages are you getting out of having W-2 employees versus having, 1099 employees, contractors mainly. And really, you can go either direction. There's really, no difference, other than the fact that when they're 1099, they're not necessarily your employees. You don't have to give them the same things that you would as a W-2 employee. So I always find that, when we're working with small businesses, and trying to help them determine whether or not it makes sense to hire more employees or leverage more contractors, we always take a look at what the end game is. If your end game is minimizing your costs overall and your overhead, and still being able to either create that product or offer that service, you might be able to leverage a 1099 for that. If not, and you really want to have those W-2 employees, you have to be prepared to take on the taxes, the insurance, the paid holidays, all the things that kind of come with employing someone, to be a W-2 employee. So it really kind of depends on, kind of which direction your company's going and kind of what makes the most sense for you. But when I think about the gig economy, there's a lot of, like myself, I mean, I'm a small business owner. And when I need to get an insurance plan, I'm either going to have to leverage the plan that my spouse might have through his employer, or I have to go to the marketplace. So that's either going to be a federal marketplace or a state marketplace. In the state that I'm in, it's a state marketplace. So it really kind of limits my abilities to secure, different health plans, because it really narrows my options. And so while I think the gig economy is great and it is exploding, and I hope it continues, I do think that, health insurance is a big piece of the puzzle for people to figure out if they want to continue to be doing, gig work, or whether they might need to, take that full-time permanent job somewhere.
Well, what state are you in?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Hmm. And there's only private employment in Pennsylvania.
So we have
Private insurance.
Yeah, we have to go through this state exchange. So Pennsylvania used to be on the federal marketplace, and
Hmm.
then they decided, oh, we're going to create our own.
Hmm.
And so they created their own, but they only allow two different insurance companies to offer coverage on that marketplace, as opposed to the federal marketplace, which has, many more options. And so, each state has their own approach to it, and I think some over time, because of the Affordable Care Act's rules, have made some changes, and Pennsylvania was one of them.
Well, it's funny. I'm on Medicare and a Medicare Advantage, and I just moved from New Jersey to Delaware, and I went from a plan sponsored by the AARP and United Healthcare, which I was paying $256 a month for the supplement plus the Medicare, to Delaware, where I'm paying $33 a month for the same coverage. And you sit there and say, oh, and I was talking to some people who are gig employees, and they say, why would I go on to because I got such a good plan here in Pennsylvania and Delaware.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very it's interesting because our entire workforce economy, if you think about the way that the US is set up from a governmental standpoint and the way the laws are written, are all based upon us being W-2 employees. But as you have more people in the country that shift over to gig work and are kind of doing their own thing, they're contractors, they're freelancers, they're picking up bits of work here and there. A lot of the existing institutions and infrastructure that we have don't necessarily translate, and so people they get creative. They find the loopholes. They find the ways to save money, and I think that is the only way that we can survive at the moment. But hopefully, there'll be some larger scale changes from a governmental perspective at some point, because I think the legislation's a bit outdated.
Well, people forget that employee insurance came about in World War II because as a way of getting around the wage limit imposed by the war. But now let's go on. This program is about small business, etc. What are some of the things you've learned that you'd like to pass on? But before we do, your website again for everybody.
Sure. So my company is Next Level Benefits, and our website is nlbenefits.com. So feel free to check us out and see the different services that we offer. We also have some information out there about our team and our clients, our past clients.
Well, what are some of the issues that small business owners that you've dealt with that you could share with us that help us?
Sure. So, I mean, health insurance is one. It's hard to secure competitive, comprehensive, affordable health insurance for employees. So that is usually up there in terms of the priority list. Also, compensation. We do a lot of compensation market studies with our small employer clients to ensure that they are offering salaries that are commensurate with the experience and the talent that they're hoping to bring into their small business. We also see small business clients, they're unfortunately maybe struggling with some employee relations issues. So there might be some things that kind of come up within the workplace, and an employee might be looking for someone who's more of an impartial party to kind of come to, as opposed to having to go to ownership and maybe complain about a coworker, or even have trouble feeling like they can be transparent and upfront because it might be a family business. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunity for us in particular to kind of help companies in that space when it comes to employee relations. But I also see some small businesses that are also just generally struggling with a lot of the same issues that all size employers are struggling with, which is attracting talent, keeping talent, limiting turnover, making sure that they're making a good hire from the get-go, and just getting used to having to run their own business, which also means they have to be attuned to the people issues and the people aspects of running a business, and that's always not second nature to some people.
Let me throw something out you. In our focus groups, we've discovered that in smaller, oftentimes it's the salary inequities between various employees. They discover that Jane is making $10,000 more than Jim, or Jim is making 10,000 more than Jane. How do you resolve those issues?
So what we typically do when we're working with clients who might be leveraging us for maybe a compensation study or some sort of analysis of their pay structure, we are often looking from a pay equity lens standpoint to just make sure that, the people who are within the same job or same position are making a comparable salary. And if they're not, we need to be able to back up the reason for why someone would be making more than somebody else. And that usually we have to take a look at, are they more experienced? Have they been in the workforce longer? Do they have some piece of, maybe it's education or a degree or a certification that the other person does not? So really what I always tell small business owners is if you have a case or a reason for why, why this person might be making more than that person, then you're in good shape if you get challenged, as long as it makes sense and it is something that you can defend in a court of law. But if you don't really have a reason, you just happen to like that person more than you like the other person, you definitely need to kind of revisit things and really be thinking about making things a little more equitable. So for us, it's all usually about giving guidance and help. And 9 times out of 10, small business owners want to do right by their employees, and they want to make sure that, the pay that people are receiving are commensurate with the value they're bringing to the company. So we tend not to have a ton of issues in that space after we kind of identify the problem and help them fix it. But it's definitely something you need to be paying attention to, because there's a lot of pay equity legislation that's coming up, from state to state, city to city. There's a lot of job descriptions out there that are, you're now having to display what the salary range is before you even, can have any people apply to the job. And so you do need to be kind of thinking in that way of, how do we treat our employees equitably? And as long as you're thinking in that way and you're able to explain the disparities, I think you're in a good place.
Well, let me throw one at you that just came up recently, something else. What happens if a partner in a firm is rewarding a woman who he's sleeping with?
Mm. Well, I would say that's not good at all. I would fix that problem immediately
Well, how do you
I,
fix it? The,
I mean,
the reason I asked the question is
yeah,
the other two partners are trying to figure out how to do it
yeah.
without.
Yeah, I mean, what we would normally advise in that circumstance is, number one, if you have some hard evidence against that, you need to be documenting that. You need to be saving it and compiling it. And ultimately, I'm not sure if the other two partners would like this, but ultimately, you're going to probably need to attempt to exit the partner that is uh, basically violating some sort of company policy in this regard. And it's mainly because this can be viewed as favoritism. It can be viewed as discriminatory. It can be viewed as sexual harassment. It can be viewed as a hostile work environment. That employee could run in a variety of directions from a liability standpoint, which could cause the company undue hardship beyond what's already kind of been,
Well,
challenged
I have
relationships.
two questions on that.
Yeah.
One is how do you compile um, a document, and two, who's discriminated against? The real problem seems to be here with this particular guy. Happened on Earth and something else. I was doing something else. Who is being discriminated against because someone else is earning more money?
The people who might be doing the same job and earning less. Those could be the people who could come forward and say, hey, this person's getting more than me. There's no reason for it. You're discriminating against me because I am a woman, because I am young, because I am old, because I am this, because I am that. So it doesn't necessarily need to be true for it to be something that an employee can grab onto and attempt to use as a way to get money out of the company. And so, that's typically who ends up getting discriminated against, is someone who is a bystander, who is observing the situation and being impacted adversely. And then going back to the question about how to document, if there's any sort of emails that allude to this type of behavior occurring, maybe there has been in-person meetings where you could be taking notes and kind of, oh, okay, he's talking about it in front of people. Or maybe there's some sort of paper trail as it relates to pay increases and when they're occurring and why they're occurring, and if they're in, if they're timed well with any sort of performance evaluation or not. There's lots of different things that an investigator would typically want to pull together, and usually an HR consultant or any sort of employment law attorney would be the ones who can conduct that investigation if it's maybe too difficult to kind of do on your own. But there's lots of ways to kind of pull information together so that if you are challenged in a court of law of why did you exit this partner from the business arrangement, or why did you fire this employee, you would have the hardcore evidence to back that up.
But what if the couple ended up married? No, I mean, I look at all these cases, and as long as I've been in business, which is a long time, we've seen affairs, we've seen everything, and now all of a sudden it's become illegal to do what they say came naturally. But I'm curious on this. Happened to run into this situation, and I happen to know all three partners, and the partner that's straying isn't married, so and the employees not married, so if they met in a bar, everybody'd say happy.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that there's pay involved. So if you're going to pay that person more because of a relationship that's occurring, that's where there's some ethical concerns that could be happening, which could evolve into more, federal statutory issues as it relates to discrimination and other sorts of pay equity factors. So that would be, I think it's the idea that there's pay involved and that the person who can make the decision on how this employee is paid and how much they're paid. That's really the issue.
Lauren Winans, uh, tell us your website once more.
Sure. Next Level Benefits. The website is nlbenefits.com.
Okay, well, now we have just a couple of minutes left. What would you like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to leave everyone with, I am a small business owner myself. I love being an entrepreneur. It's fantastic. And I champion all of you for, putting yourselves out there and running small businesses. If you ever need help with any sort of people issues or HR matters, benefits, compensation, what have you, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to help.
Well, on that note, we say thank you for a very illuminating time together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.